Hello and welcome to On the Break, our football episode. We're going to start doing things a little differently, separating things by sport. We got some new faces here. No Joel today. He's unavailable. But I've got Nico right next to me and Mike right under me. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Happy to be here.
I'm doing good, Macooch.
Good to hear that. I'm doing fine myself. So let's just get straight into it. That's how we began On the Break, and we're just going to introduce new people again straight into it. Big news coming out from Los Angeles. Joey Bosa signed a big contract extension. I believe it was 5 years, about $125 million. The man got paid. He deserves it. A lot of people think his brother is better, including myself, but I think, he deserves the money. I think that's not really the issue we have here. It's the fact that, Myles Garrett just broke the record for largest contract by a defensive player. Then you have Joey Bosa breaking it again. You're going to see a lot of defensive linemen in the position of Joey Bosa, mostly his brother, Nick Bosa, asking for more money, maybe.
Definitely.
So I want to just hear your guys' quick takes on it, and we have some other topics we want to get into, so we're going to make this a little shorter. And what do you guys think about Joey Bosa? Nico, I'll start with you here.
This offseason, everybody got all the defense. You see, all the defensive pass rushers all getting paid. Myles Garrett got paid. He got paid over, $100 million. And now Bosa. But you're looking at guys who, they get 12, 13 sacks a year.
Yeah.
Joey, he's the type of guy where his down year was 7.5 sacks. So, I don't know really what else there is to say. He deserved his money and he got his money.
Yeah. Mike, what do you got on that?
Yeah, definitely what Nico was saying, he's a premier pass rusher, man. Name, honestly, 5 or 10 pass rushers that are better than Joey Bosa. It's hard to because he's such an elite pass rusher. And also when you got Melvin Ingram on the other side, getting a little older, hitting his 30s, out of his prime, you want to be able to secure a defensive end like that. And it's a premier pass rusher like him in order to continue to wreak havoc on the Chargers defense, you know what I'm saying?
I feel you there. Yep. That's right. We just want to bring that up really quickly. Big news now.
Quick topic.
Yeah, quick topic there. Now our big news, the big trade coming out of Seattle and New York. I know it's good for you, Nico. You are a Jets fan. I will not hide that from the fans here. And with Mike being an Eagles fan, he's probably also disappointed that the Seahawks were able to trade for Jamal Adams. Seattle giving up Bradley McDougald, their starting safety, 2 first-round picks, one in 2021 and the other in 2022, with including a third-round pick. And the Jets obviously giving up Jamal Adams, one of the best safeties in the NFL, arguably the best safety in the NFL, and also a 4th-round pick coming out of New York too. But the Seahawks gave the Jets a haul, in my opinion. Obviously, Jamal Adams is one of the best safeties in the entire NFL, but does anyone think that the Seahawks overpaid here? You have the history of Seattle where they always trade their first-round picks. They haven't drafted well in the first round either. So they've always said, I don't care about my first-round picks. We're going to trade them and build through the 3rd round or the 4th round, the 5th round. They've done pretty well at it, including a guy by the name of Richard Sherman in the 5th round that brought them to an NFC championship. They won a Super Bowl with that guy. So when you look at it from the perspective of the Seahawks, giving up these picks, it's nothing to them. Me and Joel brought up last year, we both think that the Seahawks are going to win the NFC this year. And that was before the Jamal Adams trade. So I'm very high on Seattle with this trade. I think they did a fantastic job making this trade. And the Jets, I really don't think anybody lost the trade here. Jamal Adams was going to leave New York. So to get a haul like this, I don't think there's an issue with this trade. This is just your good old blockbuster trade where both teams get a really positive outcome because of it. And Mike, I'll start with you first because I want to save Nico's reaction for last. Save the best one for last because he's a Jets fan. So, Mike, what are your thoughts so far on this Jamal Adams trade and where are we going?
Like you said, it's definitely a huge haul for the Jets. They gave up 2 first-round picks, a 3rd pick, and they also gave out McDougald, one of their starting safeties, in order to obtain Jamal Adams. And honestly, Jamal Adams is easy, top 3, top 5 minimum safety in the NFL. You can't argue with that. But if you're going for a safety, especially you're giving 2 first-round picks, a 3rd pick, and Bradley McDougald, I think maybe it's a little bit of a reach for Jamal Adams, in my opinion. He's also at the same time, it's a safety, and you don't know how Jamal Adams will adjust to the Seattle's defense because don't they play a 3-4, Macooch?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not really sure how he's gonna be able to adjust within the first year, and also didn't he Did he get a contract extension or not? I don't remember.
He's not signed to a contract extension.
Yeah, he's still under his
that was the
current
problem.
contract,
That's why
right?
he wanted to get out of the Jets. Yeah.
But also, too, you see a lot of these defensive backs who got like huge contract extensions after arriving. Like you look at Nnamdi Asomugha when he went to Philly from Raiders, like 5 years, $60 million at the time. He completely sucked. Like he was blowing up touchdowns here and there. He gave up all these deep balls. You don't know what's going to happen to Jamal Adams. Personally, I still think he's a hybrid safety. He's very good, great ball skills. You can't say anything bad about him, but like I say, it's kind of a reach at this point. And also, when you look at the depth chart, too, I think they'll be okay. He's going to be moved to strong safety. Quandre Diggs is still a solid free safety. He still has some things to prove. Honestly, Seattle's secondary, though, looks great on paper. You got Shaquille Griffin and Quinton Dunbar from the Washington football team coming over to take the right cornerback slot. And you got Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. I think Seattle, on paper, should have a top 10 defense, honestly. Their D-line still needs a lot of like question marks, a lot of them to prove. But honestly, linebacker position, their secondary, definitely top 10, top 5 unit even. That's all really I got to say right now. What about you, Nico? Right. What do you think, Jets fan?
Okay, this is interesting. I'm gonna bring this back to a few months back actually I'm gonna bring it back to last year. Jamal in October originally said he wanted to get traded. I never ever thought that they were going to trade him. But a few weeks back, a few weeks back, he started to say things about Adam Gase, started to say things about how Gase wasn't a leader, how he didn't think Gase held the locker room together. And my opinion was, well, Jamal is on the defensive side of the ball. And Greg Williams, he probably communicates with Greg Williams more, so that's probably something most defensive players would say. But a lot of players who played for Gase didn't like him either, but you didn't hear them saying things like that. A guy like Le'Veon Bell probably had every right to go off on this guy and said nothing. A guy like Darnold probably, who knows if he likes him. He may like him, he may not. But then, Joe Douglas said, we want to sign Jamal long-term, and I still think to this day he wanted to sign Jamal long-term. Then last week, maybe a day or two before he got traded, Jamal went out and wrote this whole thing about how, again, Gase isn't a leader. And after that, I was like, I had a weird feeling that they were going to move him. And in my opinion, for the Jets, considering that he wanted to be traded, you got a lot for him. You got 2 first-round picks, you got a third, and you got McDougal. Now, the Jets have 3 safeties now. They have Ashton Davis they drafted, which a lot of people like. They have Marcus May, and now obviously they have McDougal. McDougal has more career interceptions than Jamal Adams. Not saying he's a better player, but Jamal Adams is, like Mike said, a hybrid safety. And I think Seattle's going to use him in that linebacker safety type of role. He's going to be blitzing the quarterback a lot like he did last year. But I think he's going to fit really well in Seattle. And I was high on Seattle like a lot of people were, but now they are a Super Bowl contender. I always thought they were, but you can make the legitimate argument right now that they're going to win the Super Bowl. But another point from the Jets is they got more for Jamal Adams than Houston got for DeAndre Hopkins and Jadeveon Clowney combined. I mean, they got 2 first-round picks, a third, and another starting safety for their safety. And I'm not saying Jamal's not great. Jamal is great. I've always been a Jamal fan. I will always be a Jamal fan. But they got a lot for him. And Joe Douglas didn't draft Jamal, so I think that is what really led him to trade Jamal, because he doesn't have any allegiance to Jamal. That's not one of his players. Not that he didn't like Jamal, and I think he really did want to sign him long term, but considering he wanted to leave, they got a ton for him. And now it's up to them, if they draft well, hopefully they do. But like you said, Seattle's doesn't draft very well in the first round as it is. So to them, they were looking at it like, we're going to trade and we're going to get a Hall of Fame talent, which Jamal is. And, Pete Carroll's going to have a lot to work with next year in that secondary. I know the defensive line's a little, but you know what? I think Seattle made the right move, and I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to work for both sides.
I definitely agree with that there. I mean, this, again, like you guys said, it's just good for both sides. I think we understand the Seattle perspective. I want to get more into the Jets perspective, to be honest.
Yeah, I wanted to add something about that too.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, so what, you were finished? You good, Makuch?
I mean, if you had something to add, just go ahead. We'll keep it going.
Yeah, because definitely what Nico was saying about like what we saying about Adam Gase, like you see a lot of these Jets players, still keeping their head up, not really trying to like talk trash behind their coach, because also at the same time you want to be able to have a leader in the locker room. And Jamal Adams, with all he was saying about the coach Adam Gase, like it kind of just gives you perspective that he's just kind of like his own man, like he's not going to stand for anything that's going on, like whether it's like lack of leadership or anything like that. But also at the same time, he's got to still be able to keep his chin up and just, like just keep his head down a little, because that's still your coach at the same time. So you're not really giving a good perspective to your whole team that you're really a leader. Not saying that he's not a great player. He's an elite player, definitely. That's why he's in the top 100, top 5 safety. But that's one, like I just said, like you just got to be leading in the locker room. And you've seen a lot of times, like you look at Odell Beckham and the Giants. He wasn't a great leader. Still a very talented player, but he was just talking his talk, just letting his mouth run. Guess what? He got traded. Got traded to the Browns, and look what happened. Now he's just blown with Baker Mayfield. So look what happened. So I'm not saying that he's gonna. There's a possibility he may not be able to transfer in the Seattle system, but on paper, he looks like he can really make a huge impact in that secondary, and an impact that the secondary really needs this season. Definitely an NFC contender, and definitely a Super Bowl contender with this trade.
Yeah, for sure.
You're saying about the Jets' perspective, though?
Yeah, the Jets. Well, you got into it a bit too, and the Adam Gase thing was the main reason that Jamal Adams really asked for this trade. That's what he cited, besides the contract extension, obviously. I have been very vocal against Adam Gase on this.
Well, I changed my view on Adam Gase a lot. When he first got hired, I didn't want him. I wanted Mike McCarthy, obviously, but as a Jet fan, I just kind of sat there and I was like, I'm gonna have to suck it up, live with this guy, look for the best. But after last year, I was like, it was just a typical Adam Gase season. They're 1-7, and then they win some games down the stretch, and then they go 7-9. Like that was just the way Adam Gase. And I know Darnold was hurt, and I get that, but he's not. This is not the first time that things like this have come up. This is the same thing that happened in Miami. He's still living off of the whole thing that he was a great offensive coordinator with Peyton Manning. I mean, it's Peyton Manning, and he apparently now him and Le'Veon Bell don't get along. I mean, who knows what him and Darnold are like? He has a problem with the only person that actually liked him was Joe Douglas. That's the only reason why Jamal got traded. And who knows if Gase has a bad year this year? If they have another year of if they don't even go 500, I think Gase is out the door. Yeah. But I think the way Joe Douglas looked at this trade was this: the Jets have had Jamal Adams 3 years, and he looked at it as like this. He understood that the coaches that were in place were not good. Todd Bowles, at the end of the day, Todd Bowles was not a good coach. Gase, it looks like it's going to be the same thing with him. The Jets were 16-32 with Jamal Adams. They weren't really winning a lot of games with him. So the way that he looked at it as, I came in here to rebuild this team, and he's not really my player. So if I get the right trade, if I get the haul, I'm going to take it. And, everybody who says, I don't know. I probably would have taken that trade too. And I think most executives would have taken that trade. And a lot of executives came out and said, people were talking and they were saying, this was a really good trade. Joe Douglas has a good background. He seems to be a smart guy. He looks like he's drafting decently well. Looks like the guys he got this year, we'll see what happens. Looks like they were good college players. He got Becton. He got Denzel Mims, which looked like Denzel Mims, people thought was going to go a lot higher than he did. He got Ashton Davis, who looks like he's going to be a nice, solid safety for them. And, but the other thing with the Jets safety situation is, Marcus May's contract is up after this year, and so is McDougal's. What are they going to do with that? May has a little bit of an injury history, but when May is on the field, he's a very solid safety, as well as McDougal. And I think Greg Williams this year, though, is going to have he's going to have a lot to work with, because he's going to have 3 safeties, and Ashton Davis is another safety that's, he's like he is a hybrid type of safety. You can move him around a lot, move him all over the place. But the Jets Joe Douglas said he's going to come in and rebuild the team, and that's what he's doing. It was a hard decision to make, but at the end of the day, I think that if he wanted to build the team, he needed draft picks. This was the way to get draft picks. So if he drafts well in the next few years, and the Jets, they start making progress, people are going to look back at this trade and say, yeah, we lost Jamal, but at least we're starting to make progress. If he doesn't draft well, then that's a different story. The Jets are going to be in the same spot they've been in for the last, since Rex Ryan left. So I hope it works out. But I like the trade.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we all like the trade. I don't think anybody's against the trade. I do want to say one last thing about Adam Gase. You mentioned him with Peyton Manning. Any offensive coordinator with Peyton Manning, Manning is the offensive coordinator. That was my point. Every single time.
That's what he lives off of.
Yeah, Peyton Manning would just say, Peyton Manning would look at Adam Gase and say, "What'd you call? Okay, forget that one. Omaha, let's do something else." I mean, he is. That's Peyton Manning. Look, so to look really good off him,
I think Gase. Look, this is my opinion on Gase. I think Gase would have made a good offensive coordinator.
Yes.
I think that they needed this is where they should have gotten a guy like McCarthy. He can come in. He can, he has leadership quality. Gase has no sense of leadership. Maybe that'll change. Most likely
it can't. No shot. In my opinion,
I don't think it will. And I think the thing with Jamal is, you look at Jamal Adams and you say you wish 52 players on my team had his type of mentality. He has that mentality that it's win or nothing else. You wish 52 players on your football team had that mentality. You would kill to have guys with his mentality. You kill to have guys like that, and that's what Seattle looked at us at. That's the way they looked at it, and I can't blame them for wanting to do this.
Yeah, Seattle's been building that kind of roster. Mike, you had something to add there or no?
Yeah, definitely. What Nico was saying about Joe Douglas, he had a great history. He was with actually my team with Philly for a few years, and he's had a great history of drafting there too. So I think with the 2 draft picks in 2021, 2022, I think the Jets honestly set themselves up for just for a lot of success, especially with their draft picks. Like Denzel Mims getting picked up, he went pretty high, but he still has a lot of upside. And Jets receivers cores went up too. The Jets, of course, have other positions where they got to improve too. But with these other draft picks, and maybe even a third, because you've seen people where they've gotten a great third round pick too. So I think this is translated to further success for the Jets, or at least in a positive direction.
Yeah, the roster building of the Jets is something that I've really liked so far with Joe Douglas.
Definitely.
He's built a lot of young talent and a lot of great players.
He signed a lot of nice offensive linemen in the offseason.
Exactly. That's who he drafted Becton, like you mentioned. And I think you can build the best roster in the NFL. If you don't have the coach to put that roster together and bring those guys 100%. Together in the locker room, you are going to go 7-9, 8-8 every year. It happened with the Dallas Cowboys with Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett was a good player. I know you laugh at that, but it's what happened. If the Cowboys had a better coach during those Jason Garrett years, the Cowboys had a 12-4 year. The Cowboys would have had a Super Bowl ring, in my opinion. They had the roster to do it at some point.
Had good teams.
Definitely.
Really good teams.
They had, when that 12-4 year, Ezekiel Elliott was the best running back in football, and he was the best running back I've seen since Adrian Peterson that one year. I mean, you might say that's a reach, but he was on another level in his rookie and second season. So, that's besides the point, though. I think Adam Gase is the worst coach in football. You can't argue anybody else to me. You have to get Adam Gase out of New York. I would have fired him after the Miami game last year when they lost to winless Miami.
I said the same thing. I said the same thing.
Yeah.
Look, I would have never hired him to begin with.
Oh, so I would have had Mike McCarthy as head coach and then Adam Gase.
I would have, because the Jets had a good opportunity that offseason, because they could have done whatever they wanted with Gase. They didn't have to hire Gase because they could have hired him as an OC and he would have had to take the job because nobody else wanted Gase. They weren't even looking to hire him as an offensive coordinator. If you hire him as an offensive coordinator, he doesn't work out, no big deal. You fire your OC. You're talking about a head coach. This is a guy who runs both sides, and he doesn't. He's supposed to run both sides of your team, but we know that they basically run. Adam Gase runs the offense. Williams runs the defense.
Yeah, and
Greg Williams had a very good turnout last year, but we expected that because Greg Williams is a very, very good coach. I think outside of the whole Saints bounty scandal, he's changed his mentality, and he had a lot of players last year, a lot of defensive linemen specifically on the Jets that you had never heard of getting sacks.
Yeah,
these guys coming at it, and even towards the end of the year, Quinnen Williams started to look a little better. You started to see Williams, his breakout speed, and you started to see him getting to the quarterback more. And
solid nose tackle, definitely.
And even last year, he, what he did with Bless Austin, who, the Jets, that was a good draft pick, Bless Austin, because the reason why they got him so early, or got him so late, is because he was injured. And it looks like Austin's going to be a nice corner for them. But the Jets have another problem. They don't have that number one corner. So maybe this draft pick gets them that number one corner, that Darrelle Revis type of player, someone you can be this is our lockdown corner. But, Joe Douglas has made good trades. He made that, think about it. That trade with the Giants for Leonard Williams, I mean, you turned that into it. You turned Leonard Williams, who was doing basically nothing, who you were going to let walk anyways, into a draft pick. Who cares how late it was? You still turned it into a draft pick, and then they wound up signing him, so you got him around earlier.
Yeah. I mean, again, Joe Douglas is pretty good. Yeah.
I agree that, if you don't have the right coach in place, none of this is going to work. Because you can see the way Joe Douglas is building his team. He's trying to build it the right way. He's building it through the offensive line. He's trying to draft the right way. He's accumulating draft picks, and he's going to draft. He got a guy like Mekhi Becton, 6'7". He ran a 5'11" at the combine. Like, he's drafting these guys who, with the right coaching, these guys could turn out to be really, really good. But at the end of the day, it turns into it's all about coaching, and I think that's what, and especially with the quarterback with Darnold. What has he really had as a coach these past 2 years?
Nothing.
People, everyone's going to rip him, but when you don't have the right coach, it's really, really hard. There's not a lot of guys like Andrew Luck who can just step in with a bad coach and just be like, all right, I'll go win you 10 games and I'll, improve. And look at Luck. He's retired now. It took a toll on him. And
don't remind me.
It took a toll on him. And, you look at quarterbacks across the league. You look at guys like Mahomes, who's, turning out, he's the best quarterback in football.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the top 100 later. But
sure.
He has Andy Reid. Lamar Jackson has John Harbaugh. Aaron Rodgers had Mike McCarthy for all those years. Brady had Belichick, even though Belichick was – but Brady still had other good coaches. When in terms of young quarterbacks, in terms of young players in general, they need the right coaching in place. And that's, and think about a guy like Wentz, Doug Peterson. But you need the right coaching. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Because all of these dynasties too that come out to either go on to win Super Bowls or just make deep playoff runs too, like what Nico said. Definitely Jackson and Harbaugh, even though they make it that far. Andy Reid and Mahomes. You got McCarthy and Rodgers, but we know why McCarthy was kicked out because Aaron Rodgers was a total diva. That's the reason why. But you got all these other dynasties too. And when you think of Gase and Darnold, I think in a way Gase is also hindering Darnold's potential to be a solid quarterback in this league. Not saying that he doesn't have the talent. He definitely does have the talent. You look at his stats last year, it's not that half bad considering what he had, because he had all these injuries. Literally, he had that what did he have again? He had mono, right?
Mono.
He had mono for 4 weeks.
Yeah, he had mono.
Only the Jets would get mono.
His offensive line was ranked
exactly.
bottom 5.
Look, all these
his
hits.
Position players were ranked bottom 5, and he turned out to have a decently solid year.
Even with having Jamison Crowder in the slot, he still had such a depleted receiving core. Quincy Enunwa, didn't he didn't even
play last year.
Yeah, he didn't play.
And Darnold still had one of you guys can even pull his stats up. It's not even that half bad. You can definitely say Darnold's easily a top, maybe even a top 16 quarterback, but on the top half at least.
I think that's fair.
That's what his
for right now. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I got his stats.
Also,
Sam Darnold, 2019, 3,024 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions with an 84.3 quarterback rating. Exactly. For what he had and what he had to work with.
And he gradually, improved as the year went on.
Exactly. And also, you see some of these highlight reels, Darnold can hold his own too, even when all he has is just either one, hand off to Le'Veon Bell for a 2-yard gain maximum, or two, just throw a check down to him because nobody's getting open. Darnold, honestly, what he had a solid – what?
Your idea with Le'Veon Bell, that's a great plan, and it's a plan I would use. Adam Gase doesn't do that. He doesn't use Le'Veon Bell at all.
Le'Veon Bell
Sam Darnold has all the weapons in Le'Veon Bell. He has these, you have the receiving core that's meh, but you have at his best, Le'Veon Bell is a top 5 running back in football. Him not being used gives Le'Veon Bell no opportunity to be Le'Veon Bell. And
that's where it all
the thing
comes
with
down
the
to
Jets.
coaching, too.
The Jets have so much potential. And your coach needs to bring out that potential.
And Bell's not that old either. He's only 26, 27 years old.
He's in his prime.
He still has a lot left. People keep saying, Bell took off. And I will say, though, I think Bell's going to have a much better year this year than last year. Because I think that, he's so talented. And the prime example was last year against the Bengals when they lost. The Bengals had one of the worst running defense, and I don't even think Bell got the ball 25 times. That cannot happen.
Exactly.
You need to know the problem with Gase was he is the worst coach in football when it comes to adjustments. He'll have a good start, a good first quarter, and then after that, it's just once the other team starts adjusting, Gase just goes down the hole.
Yeah.
And you saw that a lot last year, and you're going to see that. You're probably going to see it again this year, and then the Jets are going to wind up having to, they're going to wind up having to get a new coach when they should have just gotten McCarthy, and this probably would have not been an issue. The Jets would have been making steps in the right direction already.
Yeah. Mike, what you got to say?
I think this is honestly a hot seat year definitely for Adam Gase, because if he doesn't perform, it's another season of mediocrity or falling below 500. I think he's out the door. Definitely. I think the whole team should freaking riot if he doesn't get out the door after the season if he underperforms again. Because with so much, like you said, Makuch, with so much potential that the Jets have, and now with the potential that they do have a speedy rookie receiver, you still got Le'Veon Bell, who could definitely perform and completely exceed every expectation you have for him. If you underutilize that so much, and also a star in Sam Darnold waiting to burst out, if you hinder so much potential, why are you even there in the first place? If he does that one more time like what he did last season, I think Adam Gase needs to be out the door. Joe Douglas, I think he's smart enough to be able to make those decisions and find a coach that will be able to suit to the offense's needs.
Yeah, next offseason for the Jets is going to be much interesting. Maybe the Jets will try to get Lincoln Riley, even though he just signed an extension. Lincoln Riley is going to say, I'm not coming at all. I don't know who the Jets would replace for Adam Gase, but we'll honestly see. It depends on who gets fired and whatever. But that's just something we'll have to wait and see, and a lot of wait and see. And if you guys don't have anything else to add, we can move on to our next topic here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Besides that, so we can all agree, the Jets, a lot of potential. The worst coach in football. Not a good match. That equation equals 6-10, and that's what I think the Jets will be this season. We'll see what happens there. But one thing that we do know, the players don't know how to vote on the NFL Top 100. They have a lot of biased opinions. Oof. And the main talking point of this is the quarterback list that they created. You see Kyler Murray at 90, although I don't hate him being on the list. He's a rookie, and his team didn't win a lot of games, but I do like Kyler Murray, obviously quarterback, University of Oklahoma. But Josh Allen at 87. It gets bad when you get into the 50s and the 40s. You have Jimmy Garoppolo. He did make the Super Bowl, but his talent is not there. You have Jimmy Garoppolo at, 53. Dak Prescott at 46.
Tannehill.
Yeah, Tannehill's
Tannehill. Oh my
Tannehill's in the top 100. What? He didn't even play the entire season, and Tom Brady's very high up. Obviously, he has the GOAT status about him and everything, but he did not have a great year last year, in my opinion. And Mike, the Eagles fan, is going to have a hard time swallowing this pill. Carson Wentz is not on the top 100 at all. At all. No Carson Wentz. So we're going to do the same exact thing that we did with the Jets take. Nico, you go first, because we want to save Mike's reaction for last. Let him get that pent-up aggression. Keep it going. Nico, what do you have to say about this top 100 quarterback list? It's bad, in my opinion. What do you got?
I think the NFL, and I think everybody is I really believe that there's a bias, and I think people still really look at Wentz and they say, well, Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. And for some strange reason, I don't know why people just can't. Carson Wentz, in terms of just raw arm talent, is probably top 5 in terms of just pure talent. I mean, outside of Mahomes, who has a better arm? He just pure arm, just all around. I think that Wentz is up there. But I don't have a problem with putting guys like Dak on the list and guys like Kyler Murray on the list. But where's Carson Wentz? That's the problem. And Ryan Tannehill. Look, everybody knows Ryan Tannehill is the typical system quarterback. Hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, make the throws when you got to make the throws. And, we're not relying on your arm. They didn't rely on his arm.
9 completions in the AFC divisional game.
They didn't really rely on his arm against Baltimore. They ran the ball. That's the way they play. They run the ball. They play a lot of defense. But, and I like Kyler Murray a lot. But in my opinion, Wentz is a top, he's at least a top 10 quarterback. I mean, he carried the Eagles to a 9-7 record. They beat the Cowboys in the biggest game the biggest game of the year between the Eagles and the Cowboys, and he was better than Dak. And I like Dak. I think Dak's a solid quarterback, but you can't have Dak in the top 100. You can't have Kirk Cousins in the top 100, Ryan Tannehill and Kyler Murray and all these other quarterbacks, and not have Wentz. I mean, you can make the argument right now that you would take Wentz over you would take Wentz over all these guys right now on the team Dak plays for with all the talent they have. And not saying the Eagles don't have talent. Not saying the Eagles don't have a good coach. They have a very good coach. But in terms of talent, the Cowboys are a much more talented team than the Eagles, and the 49ers are a way more talented team than the Eagles. You know, the Vikings, they have, running backs and receivers all over the place. But, in terms of my opinion, Wentz is a top 5 quarterback. But I would have put him on. I would have had him in at least the top 30.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the quarterback's the most important position in football. And the way Wentz was last year, he completed 64% of his passes. He threw for, I think it was 26 touchdowns, 7 picks. I know he had the fumbling problem, but you know what? At the end of the day, he was, there were guys coming off the practice squad playing for him, and they were making plays. And who knows, if he doesn't get hurt in the division in the game against Seattle, who knows what happens?
I think they win the game. Josh McCown Josh McCown had to score one touchdown.
Josh McCown kept him in the game, so
yeah.
why couldn't
Josh McCown's the GOAT.
And people keep forgetting, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Wentz was 11-2, and he was well on his way to winning MVP. He threw for like 30 in 13 games. He had 33 touchdowns in 13 games. He had over 3,000, about 3,400 yards. This was in 13 games.
Yeah.
And even last year in 2018, I know he didn't have I know his record was below 500, but he was playing hurt and he was playing decent, well enough he had 21 touchdowns, 7 picks. He threw about 65 completion percentage. So I'm pretty, it's pretty sad that it's a bias against Wentz, and I really like Wentz, and I think Wentz is but I think Wentz is he's gonna do well this year. But another thing, they had Mahomes at 4, so does this list even matter at this point?
Yeah, that was
Mahomes is at 4, and look, man, Lamar Jackson had a great year. He's not better than Patrick Mahomes. I don't care what nobody says.
Mahomes wasn't at 1 during his MVP season.
Exactly.
So why is Lamar Jackson at 1? There's literally some kind of bias.
The way I look at it is, if Mahomes is 4 on this list, I wouldn't even worry about Wentz not being in the top 100. Yeah. I think it's just a stupid list.
One thing to mention, that 11-2 season you mentioned with Carson Wentz, where he tore his ACL against the Rams. Sorry to remind you, Mike. But that reminds me of Derek Carr when he almost won his MVP. And he broke his leg at the last game, and I think the Raiders still won a playoff game that year.
They probably did, yeah.
They actually did, yeah. They had Matt McGloin going in. He won a playoff game. Haven't heard his name in a while. But, Carson Wentz clearly hasn't had the fall off that Derek Carr has had. He's still one of the most talented quarterbacks.
And he's been injured too.
Exactly. And he's still pushing through it, and he's still balling out. And the Eagles went 9-7. They went positive. They went over 500. So, Mike,
they made the playoffs.
What is your take on the Eagles and, Carson Wentz, everything that we've unpacked here? I want to hear you get into it.
I'm going to bring up 3 interesting stats to start off. So you guys brought up Josh Allen being number 87 best player in 2019, right?
Yeah.
These are the stats against top 10 defenses. Ready? 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 61.6 passer rating, 1-3 record. Kyler Murray, number 90, best player in 2019. 5 touchdowns, 4 picks, 85.9 passer rating, 0-6 against top 10 defenses. Dak Prescott, 0-6 against top 10 defenses. Carson Wentz, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, 93.5 passer rating, and 3-2 record against top 10 defenses. And he is not in the top 100. Let me tell you something. Carson Wentz played with literal people who was pushing shopping carts at Walmart. I'm going to say that again. Pushing shopping carts. You ever heard of Robert Davis? Anybody?
Common name. I have no idea.
You ever heard
Scott,
of
though? I know him.
Boston. Oh, yeah, Boston Scott. I mean, he's a stud. I like him.
Yeah.
You ever heard of Devontae Burnett? Anybody heard of him? No?
Who?
Yeah,
who?
These are like generic names.
A lot of who? These seem like Madden creative players.
Generic names from Madden.
Yeah.
My man, I'm hearing I found – do you know how I heard about him? Finding him on Madden 20 and cutting him off my 90% slot.
He was the guy you auto-cut.
Yeah, exactly, auto-cut, and I didn't renew his contract when he asked for $500K or whatever. And let me ask this thing too. Ever heard of Joshua Perkins when Zach Ertz was out for a game?
That's a restaurant.
Yeah, Perkins. Yeah, you heard of Perkins? Yeah, guess what? They're out of business. Just like the whole receiving corps was out of business. You lost Alshon Jeffrey, who was not gonna lie, playing such a mediocre season. Nelson Aguilar, don't even get me started.
He can't even catch the ball. His hands.
There's so many times.
His hands are worse than
too. Nelson Aguilar, when he dropped that, I was watching that game when I was actually training for a job. I was watching that Patriots game. When he dropped the ball, I literally dropped my phone and screamed at the phone.
You were the first person I thought of during that game.
Yeah, and I tweeted out Aguilar. And then Deshaun Jackson, everybody. I'm going to start you on Deshaun Jackson. He's going to be 33 next season. You really think he's going to return to form after an injury like that?
No.
I really don't think so.
The problem is he's a player based on speed.
Exactly.
He's a speed player. All you got to do is just drop a safety deep. That's all you got to do. Deshaun Jackson is not what he used to be. After his injury, I don't think he's going to prove. Everybody likes to hype up, Deshaun Jackson, oh my God, he's going to catch 10 deep ball touchdowns within 5 weeks. That's not going to happen. Watch. He's going to get hurt next year. I'm guaranteeing you. Watch him get hurt next year and then be out for the season. This is what always Deshaun Jackson does. He performs for a few weeks, then he gets hurt for a few weeks, and then he's not up to par like he should be. Carson Wentz, he literally played with nobodies. And he still was able – I mean, okay, a lot of people like to bring up – I saw these in a couple videos going like, but they beat the Giants in overtime. They beat the now Washington football team within the last few seconds. But also, look at these other – and they're like, why can't he beat – like, if such an elite quarterback, why can't he beat these trash teams? Because they are – the Washington football team and the Giants are literal trash right now. But when you look at these other quarterbacks – they still have, like, look at Deshaun Watson. Great example right here. I saw a stat the other day. They literally are neck to neck when it comes to stats. And Deshaun Watson still wasn't he top 30 in the top 100?
I believe so. I'll get his exact
number. I would argue Deshaun. I would argue, and I like Deshaun Watson a lot. I would argue he has a much better receiving core than Wentz.
Exactly.
And I like Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson is very underrated.
Because also, no question, Deshaun Watson is definitely, you could say, top 5 quarterback. Easy.
Yeah. You can make the argument somewhere here or there.
Very talented. He could run out of the pocket and throw, even with such a trash O-line what he had last year. Also, at the same time, you had DeAndre Hopkins, who you can even say is top 2, top 3 receiver in the league.
Top 1.
Well, you could even say he's number 1. I wouldn't argue either. I would still say, personally, Julio's still my number 1, but that's besides the point.
Fair.
Well, that's at the same time, too. You still have that. You still have DeAndre Hopkins. You could literally you put a double, triple team on him. He's still going to catch the ball if you throw it up to him at the same time.
Okay.
And, I just – but, I just find it so ridiculous how he's not able to make – when he shatters the Eagles' single-season franchise passing yards record in the season, he threw for over 4,000 yards. And get this, too. He threw for over 4,000 yards when none of his receivers caught – or even ran for over 500 receiving yards. You can look up the stats. Did Alshon Jeffrey have over 500? No, because he got hurt and he underperformed. Nelson Aguilar, you don't even need to think about that.
I'd be surprised if he got 350.
I'm surprised. The guy actually below 350, as I remember. Deshaun Jackson, he caught 100.
He had 2 touchdowns his first week, and then he was in.
Yeah, he just said, all right, I'm out.
He was like, Deshaun Jackson had 150 in one game. Yeah, that was one game. Because the rest of the season, he was gone. Bye.
Yeah.
But also saying a lot of people like to go he has weapons. He has Zach Ertz. He has Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is such a stud. He's going to definitely break out next season. But also at the same time, if you have Zach Ertz, defenses are going to go okay. So Nelson Aguilar during the season was still healthy. If you have Nelson Aguilar who can't catch who can't catch a cold or even catch the coronavirus, then you have Robert Davis and Greg Ward. You just really got to game plan against Zach Ertz. That's all. And still, Carson Wentz was able to carry the Eagles to the playoffs. Okay, a lot of people like to say, he got hurt within the first few plays. But, yeah, it was a dirty hit. But also at the same time, too, you got to give credit when it's due. I'm not downplaying that Kyler Murray is going to be a great quarterback. Josh Allen, I'm still high on him. I still really like him. Obviously, accuracy issues and decision-making still has to be a question. He's still tossed for a decent amount of picks compared to touchdown ratio. But at the same time, give him respect. And when you rank Jimmy Garoppolo, I'll say that one more time, Jimmy Garoppolo.
NFC champion.
Over Carson Wentz, when literally Jimmy Garoppolo threw for about 6 passes in the NFC Championship.
Did he even throw the ball 15 times?
I'm not sure.
No, he probably throws in the NFC Championship. I saw this stat. No, not 6. I think he threw 8 passes. That's it. And the whole rushing attack for the 49ers literally carried the 49ers to the Super Bowl because Green Bay's run defense wasn't that good at that time.
Yeah.
So when you really consider all these stats and like just common sense at this point, you can't – okay, if you want to put Dak – personally, I'm not very high on Dak. I think he's a game manager right now. We'll see what he does with Mike McCarthy. But if you're going to put Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, I blanked out.
Tannehill.
Don't even give me Tannehill. He had talent. Corey Davis had a great season. A.J. Brown's going to be a star receiver, great receiver. Really like A.J. Brown. And then you had Delaney Walker, too, for a season also. And you had Derrick Henry to literally hand the ball off to, the NFL rushing king of the season.
Yeah.
Tannehill was a game manager. Next season, the Titans, maybe they'll push for the playoffs, but I just don't think they're going to go as far as they did last season. That's just something that's
I think the Eagles with Wentz are going to have a better season than the Titans with Tannehill.
I agree.
Yeah, but when you rank Tannehill and Garoppolo over even Dak and Wentz, like, that's when you know that just bias is just so prevalent with the players.
You were right about Garoppolo. He went 6 for 8 in the NFC Championship game.
Oh,
77 yards.
8 passes.
He didn't even throw 10 passes.
Hey, he is efficient. 6 for 8. Okay, Tannehill also, I believe, completed 9 passes, too, in the AFC.
And most of them,
they both had checkdowns. Yeah, they're all checkdowns to Raheem Mostert.
I'll tell you something, too. Tom Brady was ranked a little high. Changed my mind. He was
right. He was. Yeah,
I said
look, this is the same list that has Mahomes at 4. So, like what is
and Russell Wilson at 3.
This is the same list that has Mahomes at 4. And wait, so I think Lamar Jackson had a good year. Yeah. If Mahomes is not the number 1 quarterback ranked on your list, it's either him or
he's
Wilson.
The 3rd quarterback on this list. Russell Wilson is 3. The 3rd best player.
The only argument
Russell
right
Wilson.
now. The only argument for number 1 quarterback right now ahead of Mahomes is Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson hasn't proved enough for me. Russell Wilson's been doing it.
Yeah, I agree. But honestly, you look at, and I like Drew Brees a lot, but right now, you can make a legitimate argument. You might take Wentz over Brees for right now. Brees is starting. It's an argument, but Brees is starting to, take back. I can tell you right now, I would definitely take Wentz over Garoppolo and Dak and Tannehill and Murray, and I like them all. They seem like they're, good. They've had decent careers, but it's just, there's a bias. Mahomes is 4, so at the end of the day, Mahomes is 4, the list is stupid.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of the top 100 myself. It's always been a talking point, because it's the players voting. But we've always had these problems where this guy should not be where this guy is.
Yeah.
And it's because it's just players voting, and they, pick their favorite players. They pick their friends.
Right, and that's probably why Brady got put up so
exactly.
high.
Like I said, he has that GOAT status about him. You can't not say Tom Brady if you're a player. People are going to clown you.
Even a guy like Rodgers
and Breeze at the same time.
And Breeze.
You have Watson at 20. I mean, it's just a weird list in my opinion. I don't know where the Wentz bias comes from. Obviously, because Nick Foles won that Super Bowl, but there's really not much to say because it's again. Players pick their friends. Players pick guys that they've played against as well. So, guys you saw in prime time and everything. You see Wentz getting injured as well. But I would agree. I don't agree with the argument that Wentz is better than Breeze because Breeze is going to get – it's an argument, though. I don't agree with it, but
that's the point of the conversation.
It's something you can consider at least.
There's no argument for him against Josh Allen.
Oh, no.
Or Kyler at this point.
The fact that you can make an argument – the fact that you can make an argument with Wentz against guys who are in the top 30, that ends it right. It doesn't matter. You can make the argument. As long as you can make the argument, he should be in it.
He should be top 40 for sure.
I agree.
I like having Watson over him. Watson's my 5th best quarterback in the National Football League right now. But I do agree. Obviously, we all agree. Even you might be able to say, well, Mike's biased. He's an Eagles fan. Me and Nico agree with this too, wholeheartedly as much as Mike does.
This is easy.
Yeah,
you don't have to not like. You can be the biggest Eagles hater, and still say that this is so stupid.
Plenty of Giants fans have said this to me. I mean, they love Wentz, so. I think that's all we have to get into there.
Yeah.
Our final topic for the day. Mike, you made a joke about coronavirus. We're going to talk about it in a serious sense. But let's see what we get. We have the NFL opt-outs happening, and a lot of players, have been opting out. Starting July 24th, offensive guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to try to say this name. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. I think I did
saw
it.
That.
I think I said it right.
You got it pretty good.
He was the first one. Yeah, I'll take it. He got the first one, and then you saw a lot of other players. The Patriots losing about 5 guys, I believe it was. Washington football team lost a guy. The Seahawks lost Chance Warmack. The Philadelphia Eagles losing Marquise Goodwin, and an already depleted receiving core, like we've mentioned already. The Giants, Nate Soldier opting out. Now, a lot of Giants fans, I know, were happy about Nate Soldier.
Probably happy
Soldier
about that one,
Yeah, very happy. People were like, "Let's go!" Nate Solder's not playing football this year. It's it's all a joke. We want guys to do well. Damian Williams was another big piece. I've said I like Devin Funchess for the Packers. He's opting out as well, and this isn't going to be the end of it. As of July 30th, there's going to be a lot more guys that say I don't want to play, and it's going to get serious when a starting quarterback says it. It might just happen. I'm not sure what direction this is going to take the NFL and the NFL next season. I do believe we will have a season. Me and Joel have talked about this. We don't believe that this season is going to finish. It's the same thing we think about school, because this spike is going to happen at some point, because people are going to be back in school. People are going to be back going out a lot more than they already are. And it's just going to be this giant, petri dish of people go unknowingly catching this thing and spreading it for 14 days, obviously. And when you bring it to the NFL, as of this moment, the most hurt team are the Patriots and the Chiefs. Patriots lost Dante Hightower to this.
Oh, yeah.
That
was
the
biggest loss in my opinion.
That is a big loss. Outside of the fact that they lost a bunch of free agents.
Yeah.
Like Van Noy.
Like that was Dante Hightower is the leader of that defense. That is
big loss for them.
I don't think I wasn't too high on the Patriots, but I think that loss, I think that secures the Bills for the AFC's crown.
I would agree with that, yeah.
But other than that, it hasn't had a huge impact. But like I said, wait until Deshaun Watson decides to opt out of this season, and basically giving the Colts or Titans the AFC South. Let's say Derrick Henry opts out. What do you do as the NFL? And I just want to hear your take on it. Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, most definitely, like you said, definitely the Patriots lost a lot of their key players, like even like players like Marcus Cannon, an anchor of the O-line, solid tackle, always serviceable, Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower also. Like these are all losses too. And when you're taking the fact, definitely with like these divisions going on too, and the NFL trying to resume, and a lot of people like to say like, oh, the fans are gone, how are you going to social distance? But also too, when you really want to stress social distance to a point like that, how are you going to social distance when players are still doing contact football at the same time too? Yep. Wouldn't you all agree? Because it's gonna like everybody's saying, like Dr. Fauci and all the other experts have been saying, there's gonna be a spike in the fall and football season in the fall too. And when all these star players are gonna opt out, like you said, maybe like the star quarterback, maybe like Deshaun Watson might opt out, maybe Aaron Rodgers might opt out, maybe star running back, maybe Zeke Elliott might opt out. He already got coronavirus, but hey, maybe he might opt out too. But also, that puts a lot of these teams also at a huge disadvantage too. And it might become like that the NFL becomes a little unfair, because when you lose all these stars, it's like if somebody opts out, it's like you're also losing them to an injury, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like out, it's not like they're out for like 4, maybe 1 or 2 weeks or 6 weeks. They're out for the entire season. They're opting out. And I understand that a lot of these players too want to take care of their families. Like when I've heard that Marquise Goodwin, not that I really care that Marquise Goodwin opted out, but he has a newborn son coming up. And you want to be able to, as a father, and a lot of these players too, as a father, you want to be able to protect your families too. You don't want to be coming home and exposing your wife and your kids and any of your family or relatives to this coronavirus. It's just like courtesy and also that you care. And at this point, with so many players starting to use this opt-out option, like, is there, not saying that like the NFL is not going to happen, but if star players or like key pieces of offense and defense of these NFL teams start to opt out, is there really any point to playing this season? You know what I'm saying? When teams aren't at their exact best. I might like be able to like add on to anybody else, but that's something that's like just been stuck in my mind when I've been looking at all these players just opting out before this 2020 season. So Nico, you got anything to say?
Yeah, I think that we're seeing this spike problem in other sports. I think, we saw in different sport like baseball, the Marlins, they had their big problem. But, it seems to be that the sports that are doing the bubble are having the best success. The NBA the other day came out, zero positive tests. The NHL looks like they're coming out and they're making steps in the right direction.
They had zero positives as well, I believe.
They did.
Exactly.
And they're in Canada, so that's better.
Yeah. And the problem is with football, how are you going? You can't. It's just too big. Like, you can't have a bubble.
Too many people.
Unless there's there's too many people on a field. There's 52 on each side, on the sidelines themselves. And, like you said, it's a contact sport. People are sweating. You're making tackles. So, think about it. A sport like baseball, they're already having problems. And baseball's not even a contact sport. Yeah. Baseball has no contact, and they're already having problems.
Exactly, man.
That is the social distance sport.
I agree that the NFL is going to start, but I do think that unless some sort of, crazy vaccine comes out and just some crazy cure comes out, I think that it is going to end early. College sports are already canceling their seasons.
A lot. It's trending in that direction as well for
high
football,
school sports
especially.
Are canceling.
California delayed high school football to December.
So maybe the NFL, what they do is they move their season to the spring when they have when there's more positive cures and positive test results and everything's coming back better. But for the commissioner's going to have to make a big decision, because if star players start coming in and saying, I don't want to play, because Dante Hightower is a star, and I know he's not, like a quarterback, but linebackers are very important for your defense.
Especially middle linebackers like him.
Especially middle linebackers like him. When you have players, guys like Watson, guys like – I don't think Brady would ever step out, but guys like that, once one does it, it's much easier for other players to come out and say, all right, I don't want to play either. It's a very tricky situation, and – it's going to be tough, because you already think about teams who are trying to move in the right direction, teams who are, just hiring new coaches, new play. Teams like the Patriots, teams like the Chiefs, they already have their system in place. They already have all their players. They know their personnel. So, these virtual off seasons are no big deal. When you have young teams, guys like Darnold, Murray, all these young quarterbacks still adjusting to the league, it is a disadvantage when you have a virtual offseason. It's a big disadvantage. So I agree that I think that there is going to be some sort of disadvantage in some places, disadvantage in other places. So is there really even right now? I believe that they should play the season.
Right.
I don't think enough players have come out and said, I don't want to play. But once the big names start coming out, I think that's when the NFL is going to say, okay, we're either going to have to make it where we're going to have some sort of maybe, you're playing all your games within a certain amount of states. I don't know, but unless something catastrophic happens where they can make that happen, where there's not as much traveling, you can play the games in a certain amount of states, they can maybe I think that the NFL is going to wind up ending their season early.
Yeah, the problem is, there's no bubble. It's why the NBA has worked.
Problem.
It's why the NHL has worked.
Exactly.
Obviously, the NFL is a massive sport when it comes to the amount of people that are in it. But the only way to succeed during this pandemic and having sports, we've seen it in women's sports. The National Women's Soccer League completed their season. They did it. I mean, you need to make a bubble. I know, and the NFL, the problem with the NFL, they can't make a bubble. And even with the bubble, you have guys leaving, coming in and out for family emergencies.
Contact.
You have Lou Williams at the NBA going out and getting chicken wings. And, you have 52 players on a roster, plus photographers, plus everyone else. Who's to say that one guy isn't going to catch it and play during a game and spread it to a 52-man roster during the game? It's impossible. It's basically impossible to not have some kind of Marlins-like outbreak.
And I think baseball, the thing with baseball is they can probably move on from this if they do the right things, because they're not a contact sport. Football, you are making tackles, you are hitting each other. One person gets it in baseball. You can control that. Because but with football, one person has it, they don't know. You're colliding with players every other play. I just think that it's going to be tough for the NFL it's going to be really, really tough with the spike coming back. If the spike comes back.
Yeah, Mike, you had something to add?
Sorry?
You had something to add, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. What Nico was saying, you guys were saying about the bubble too. Like, there's a possibility, but also at the same time, with like such a massive league like the NFL with 53 person rosters, and also gets all these coaches, doctors, athletic trainers with them too, and also media analysis, because obviously everybody wants to be able to come in contact with the players and like after post-game, pre-game analysis and stuff. How are you going to be able to control that too? And with the bubble, bringing it back up about the bubble, Miami right now is the epicenter of coronavirus right now this summer. And Florida is getting hammered with thousands of cases coming into the state each and every day.
Tens of thousands.
So, exactly. So, how – also with the idea, I want to bring up travel too. How are teams going to safely travel to away games, or even teams coming into Florida in order to participate in home games when Miami's the home team?
3 Florida
or Jacksonville.
They might have to move Miami out and just have them
exactly.
You have just 3 Florida teams and 2 Texas teams, 2 of the hot spots.
Exactly.
And you have an Arizona team.
So like, what are you gonna do with that? And also with these face shields too, how are players gonna be able to perform at their best when they got like face masks or maybe even face shields? I heard there's like other prototypes that Oakley, the companies, partner with the NFL to try to come out with. But how are you gonna be able to come out with a product like that in time for kickoff in September? Preseason games already knocked out. Preseason games, when I first saw about that, I was like, all right, the preseason games are not going to happen. But also with all these away games, travel's the key too. Because when you, let's say like in Florida, Miami, you're playing against away game against Miami, one of the Dolphins players come into contact with somebody with corona and they spread it around. They bring it back to their home state. Let's say like it's like a low coronavirus case like Jersey. Like you got the Jets or the Giants coming to play in Miami, they're going to bring it back to Jersey and spread it around there too. Yeah. Exactly. Jets play. That's why you got to think about these division rivals too. The AFC South, the AFC East. They really need to take into consideration about these travel restrictions, because also too, you can't control what the governor's going to do too. Like, I'm not trying to get political or anything, but like, what are you going to do when those states shut down, or like they're forced to shut down and like out of state travel is restricted? Just like, let's say Jersey's doing right now with like their like states like Delaware, Maryland, and North Carolina. If you travel to that state, you got to quarantine for 2 weeks. So what are the NFL players going to do? Do they get an exception? And if the NFL public finds out that they get an exception, how is that going to translate to the NFL fans and the public?
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think?
It's a lot of who knows, because you see, exactly. I believe Phil Murphy, you brought up New Jersey. I believe he said no fans at the NFL games for MetLife Stadium. That's, I mean, that's, I think
we all knew that. We all knew that was going to happen.
Right, but then you have Texas Longhorn football is having 50% capacity of their stadium this season. That's the plan, which is 50,000 people. The max capacity is 100,000 people. So Texas Longhorns are allowing 50,000 people to come watch a football game. That is not going to end well for anybody. And, you know, a lot of states are going to allow this, and a lot of states are going to be very strict about it. And that's going to affect a lot going forward. I mean, it's just a lot of what if and I don't know that we can't really answer right now, because the NFL hasn't made a clear-cut decision on it. And the NFL hasn't made a lot of clear-cut decisions for the players as well. And they've been vocal about that as well. So it's going to come to the NFL to make a decision and do right by the players. Forget about the fans. It's about the players right now.
We can watch it on TV. We're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
We watch it on TV. No big deal. We're fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also, like, you got to consider, too, the season is going to still happen right now, though. If the NFL and Roger Goodell aren't able, and the player board, if they're not able to come to agreement about like any like coronavirus plan and how the season is going to carry, because like you said, Makuch, there's no clear-cut plan right now. I mean, there's some like maybe some lucid remarks about what might happen, but there's no like concrete written down of what's going to happen. If that doesn't happen, that might lead to star players wondering about their families, not wanting to transmit the virus to anybody else, and players, or maybe even at worst case scenarios, maybe teams are going to opt out of the season if there's no plan. Because
if a team opts out, everybody's opting out.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I think that's why. The reason why the NBA had the NBA's numbers in players dropping out was very low. The NBA came out, even the NHL came out, had a plan, know what they're doing. The NFL hasn't done that. So if the NFL wants their players to not opt out, they have to come out with a plan So at least the players can say, all right, they're trying, they're proposing things, and they know they have they have a backups. They have something written down. Exactly. But until that happens, I can't blame somebody for saying, I have a 1-year-old, I have a little kid, or I have a kid being born, or I have somebody in my family with some health condition. I don't want to play. But maybe if there's a plan, maybe that player says, there's plans in place. Because you're telling me, because, even in the NBA, there's definitely guys on that court right now who probably have some sort of health, a family member with health problems. But, they know that the NBA is in a bubble. There's a plan in place or something. Someone gets tested, they have to watch it. All this type of thing. There can't be. The problem is the NFL doesn't have that luxury of being able to keep certain amount of people in certain restrained areas. So I think that's what's going to kill the NFL the most.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree. If anybody else has anything else to add, I think that will do it for the show. What about you guys? Anything else to add here?
No. It was a fun time today.
Yeah, definitely a fun time. Got a little serious at the end, but that's the way we do it around here a lot of the times.
It is.
Thank you for listening to On the Break. Nico and Joe. I mean, not Nico and Joe. Nico and Mike. Joe's coming later. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Welcome to On the Break. This is your official first episode. And we will see the rest of you guys later. Good talking.